Thank you so much. You're my favorite. No, I'm joking. We're going to talk about favoritism today, by the way. But anyways, there it is, the rock. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. We're going to talk about a phrase today that hopefully by the end you will understand what it means. Don't take it for granted. In Portugal, in the mid-'80s, there was a guy in middle school. I was, for the first time, actually learning the language of English. I was very excited about it. My parents being missionaries and pastors, I had lots of people from all over the world come through our house. We had a centrally located apartment in the city, and we had missionaries come over, constant flow. And I got to learn a few words here and there in English. So on middle school, I was very excited to learn English. I was really excited. But I had a few questions. You know that English is not the most logic language in the world? You know, for example, H. I asked my teacher, why does H sometimes sounds H and sometimes it's not pronounced at all? Like home and hour. Do you know why? Come on, is that logical? And she explained to me, well, it depends on historical sound changes, on borrowing from other languages, and on dialectical differences. I was like, doesn't make sense. Well, let's imagine that in the 80s in Portugal, microwaves were a thing. Let's imagine. And so my teacher asks me, hey, João, that's the right way to say it, João. She says, hey, João, can you go heat up my lunch? And knowing me, I would be like, sure, I can do that. So I'll grab her lunch bag, and I take it to the kitchen. I warm it up, and take the lunch bag back to the teacher. And she's so thankful, and she opens the lunch bag and looks at it, and she's surprised. She looks at me and says, João, why is my lunch bag empty? And I said, well, H depends on dialectical differences. So you told me to heat it. Well, not quite like that, but H works in the word we're talking about today as well. It's the word honor. How many of you received a rock when you walked in? Okay, quite a few, some of you not. On the way out, grab one if you want. It's free. The word on the rock, what does it read? CCL? ECL? Something like that, right? ECL or CCL? Now, grab that rock. I got one right here. CCL. Now, grab that rock and turn it upside down. And look at it. It reads kabod. And that is Hebrew for the word honor. So as a gift for you and as a remembrance of today, you can take this simple rock with the word honor, kabod. Now that honor is linked to the notion of weight. And that's why you have a rock, okay? It's a weight that you put on somebody. Usually, weight is connected to something negative, right? I will go somewhere backpacking and my backpack is so heavy, or this person is such a burden to me. Something like that, right? So normally, when we talk about the weight, is something negative. Today, however, we're going to talk about honoring somebody, which is putting weight on somebody, on their position, on their words, on their example. Okay? So that is the meaning of the word kabod, honor, weight, or maybe value or importance. All right? It's a call to action, like the other commandments. It's a call to action, to give weight and value to others. In this case, is the fifth commandment and the first commandment with a promise, which is honor your parents. That is what we're talking about today. Remember, don't take it for granted. Now, this commandment is not just said once in the Bible in a little corner or something like that. It's repeated several times. So the one we just read, Exodus 20:12, honor your father and mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you, right? Now we go to Leviticus 19:3. It says, each of you must respect your mother and father. Respect, honor. In Deuteronomy, oh my goodness, I butcher that word every time, 5:16. Honor your father and your mother as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long. Where did I hear this before? And that it may go well with you in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Finally, in Ephesians 6:1-3, specifically for kids, and the Bible is adding a word here, the obey word, right? That applies specifically and specially, sometimes to adults too, but especially to children who are dependent on parents, right? Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with the promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on earth, right? Repeat it over and over again. This is the fifth commandment and the first one with the promise. Where are your parents today? Are they here, even in this room? Are they in some other town or some other country like my mom? Or maybe they are not here anymore, they passed away, or maybe you never met them. Or maybe your stepmom or your stepdad is your father figure. How to honor them? Well, to help us talk through this difficult subject, I have 3 materials on stage today. I have a rock, and this rock, no matter how much water I pour on it, guess what? Its mass, its weight does not change. I have another material here, which is the styrofoam. And what happens when I pour on the styrofoam or some kind of foam? It does not absorb the water. It just stays light like it is, okay? It does not absorb. But I have another object here tonight, which is the floral foam. And the floral foam, when you pour water on it, it absorbs the water. It grows in weight. So we are going to use these 3 objects for the object lesson today in a little bit. What are some examples of honor? Well, in the screen right now, you can see one, which me and my wife received a few years ago. It says, "Dear Mom and Dad, you are the best parents in the world. Thank you both for all you have done for me. I could name a million things you both have done for me, but I cannot write it all. Thank you both much for everything you do, and thank you both for being you." Wow. That's honoring the parents. That was a gesture of honor. On the other hand, we may have an example of not so much honor. Ever heard of Medea? Ever heard of Medea? Okay. So the actor is getting a little bit into trouble right now, but we're talking about the character Medea, right? Medea, she grew up with Big Mabel Murphy. That was mom. She was rough, she was harsh, she was a stay-at-home mom that was full on. Her dad was Frederick Baker, a mill worker that got a head injury and then had some mental issues. At the age of 16, this is from all the movies, right? At the age 16, Medea moved from New Orleans to Atlanta. Now imagine a teenage Medea moving from one town to the other and starting all over again. Mom is going crazy, right? And she finally says, fine, we're going to take you to counseling, right? And the counselor is telling her, it's important that you listen to your parents, that you obey, and that you Can you read the word? Okay. And the counselor tells Medea, you need to honor your parents. And Medea looks at the counselor and says, honor? 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 I'm going to switch this up. Honor! Honor! And she will put another word in there with an H, which I will not write, but I'll put the rest of the word there. Honor! That is an example of lack of honor, right? That was Medea as she was growing up and moving from New Orleans to Atlanta. We honor veterans, right? Thank you, veterans, for the service to the country. We honor them. We honor firefighters. We honor teachers. Sometimes not enough. We honor, pastors or even friends. Who knows? We honor important people who visit our house. We say, oh, we feel so honored with your presence. Maybe a little bit too much for Americans. Okay. We honor your presence, right? So that is the word kabed that you have in your stones, which means weight, which means value. Don't take it for, you got it. You're faster than the first service. They took it was the fifth or sixth? Come on, guys. Prep for this service, I got to say, was a little bit hard. As a PK, or pastor kid, growing up, I saw a lot of stuff around me. My parents would be counseling, and I knew people that committed suicide, or were into drugs, were into alcohol, all kinds of tragedies, human tragedies that I saw. But at home, most of what I saw was love, faith in God, and trust. Trust in us, even, as kids. They were not perfect, but they were my heroes. And that makes it a little bit hard for me to be up here talking to you about honoring parents. Because in my understanding is, honor your parents is easy. They love you. But the world has so many other cases, right? How to honor my parents when all I remember is hate. When all I remember is lies. When all I remember is violence. When all I remember is nothing. How do I honor my parents when all I want is payback and a whole lot of distance? Not all parents are serial killers. Not all parents are heroes. So there's a whole slew of different options in between, right? How do we honor in each of those cases? How do we honor parents? And that word honor also means different things for different ages too. If I honor my parent, that's going to change with my age, right? As a baby, I start off with not even knowing what honor is, right? So if I put I like math, physics and that kind of stuff. So if we put here years of life, and here is the value or honor that I give to my parents, right? When we start our years, when we are at 0, we know nothing about honor, right? And as we start growing up, oh my gosh, our parents are the best in the world. They are our heroes. I'm not saying this is everybody, right? But in many cases they are. And then as we grow up, we start listening to other people. Maybe our parents disappoint us or something like that, and it goes down. And then maybe at early adulthood or later adulthood, it tends to go back up. Not always like that, but this is many times what happens. What other things change honor? Cultures. Like in some parts of America and in some parts of Europe, it is perfectly good to provide a senior parent with a senior care home, right? And go visit them often. And that's wonderful. In other cultures, more community-minded, maybe Southern Europe or Africa, Asia, in some areas, not having the senior parent in the house is unthinkable, right? So it changes from culture to culture, even, the notion of honor. And also if you are the first child or the second child or the third child, or if you're the favorite or you're not, how does that work? Honor changes in many different cases. Don't take it for you are a construction zone. Your land around you is your DNA. It's given by God. And now the construction zone is taking place. That's the house that's being built with deep beliefs, with values, with emotions, through the interaction with God and with other people, through books, personally, movies, and other things, right? We start building our house with beliefs that we get from our surroundings. So here I have the 3 materials, right? And we're going to use these 3 materials to understand a little bit more honor in our different stages of life, between baby and adulthood. Can we do that? Okay, so in baby, when I'm a baby, I have no say. That's correct? I can cry and fuss, and all that. I don't even know that I'm crying, but, you don't have that notion. You don't have the notion of honor. And your parents or parent figure or institution or whoever is taking care of you at that point is giving you foundational rocks. Whether you want it or not, it might sound rush or it might sound bad, but this is how it is. Some other person is building a foundation in your life. They are putting rocks in your life, right? Those are the first years of life, and others are placing rocks in your foundation. And the weight of this water, like we said, doesn't change with water or no water, okay? It's the same weight always. So if we consider the water, I have a smaller rock. That rock is gonna flat my scale here. I went on Facebook 2 days ago, and I was like, how can I make this visible for everybody? So, sorry, it's a straw and a scale. So, we have a rock over there, and if I pour water over it, right? If I pour water, it might change slightly because there's a little bit of water on top of the thing, but it's going to pour down, right? And it's not going to increase much, right? Well, why is that? Because this rock is not absorbing water, right? Is what it is. So if this is my attention or my value or my honor, okay, the water, my attention, my value, my honor for somebody else, the rock is what it is. No matter if you give value or not, is what it is. So those rocks might be, do not touch fire, right? Or they might be, don't bite, right? Simple things. Or maybe they are a loving touch that stays with you forever as a foundational rock. Or it could be abuse. That is a foundational rock in your life. Some of us may have beautiful foundations, humanly speaking. Our parents were there with the scale, yeah, and with the leveler, and making sure that all the bricks were the same size and everything is good, right? Others of us, our foundations look a mess. They are like pebbles, kind of spread around, right? In kind of a mess right there. Humanly speaking, what am I going to do with that? Well, there's a passage in the Bible, Psalms 18:2. David says, after he saw victory in his life, he says, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." So no matter what kind of foundation you have, humanly speaking, maybe it's the best in the world, or maybe it's really flawish, right? Full of maybe holes and everything. Jesus can be your foundation. Jesus can be your foundation. Then that baby grows, and that baby now is in school. And at that point, that individual is going to start building walls, okay? The walls of the house. In my case, personally, I chose a lot of solitude rather than, being with people. That was kind of foundational for my walls. I was starting to become too by myself. And that later on was hard to change. But at that age, in school age, we now have some freedom, right? We now have some freedom to say yes or no, to accept something or not. So we still get some rocks, like you're going to do your bed, right? We get some rocks that is not discussable. But we're also going to have some floral foam. Okay? You guys know what floral foam is, right? Yeah. You've seen the flower stuck on it, full of water. That's it. So this floral foam today symbolizes good advice from your parents or from somebody else. In this case, we're talking about parents. And we have the freedom. When somebody gives us an advice, let me take some of this water out. When somebody gives us this advice, right, we have the freedom to accept, or to even to think about, or to consider it, or we can just toss it in the dumpster, in our land. This word is saying, when your parents give you something, say something, or are something, you should give weight to it. So remember, the rock wouldn't take water, but this one takes water, and it takes a whole lot of it. Are you bored yet? This will go on and on. It's not even halfway. I'm going to stop before I break the scale. What happened with this advice or this example from my father or from my mother or from my stepfather or from somebody, a parent figure in my life? Somebody gave me this block, and it was good advice. And I gave it weight. Remember, the weight increased. I gave it value, and the weight of it increased, right? And now this block, and you construction workers out there and all that, by the way, it doesn't leak at all. You constructions out there, workers will say, you can't build a house with floral foams. I know, we can do that. But for the example, okay, this is much better than just like a styrofoam block. This is heavy and will withstand winds. Styrofoam, on the other hand, will not. So when you give value to what your parents are saying, and if it is good value, remember the foam, this foam is good value, is good advice. When you give value to that good advice, you can now use it to build your house. And it's going to be a nice sturdy wall, right? That's the floral foam. With weight, it's good for construction. But we also have other materials that people give us. And that's when the styrofoam comes in, right? This styrofoam, some parent, might be a parent, or might be a friend or somebody gives you this advice, or they are this example, and it might grow a little bit in the beginning because I'm building water on top. But guess what? It's not absorbing. I'm making a freaking mess up here. It goes nowhere. Why? Because it's a bad advice. It's not going to go anywhere. It's like, it's worth nothing. Somebody gave you something that you actually valued, and it's worth nothing. So that leads me to the question, what are you watering, right? What are you watering with your value? So maybe if you value that, then you're going to build with that block. And guess what? With the wind, that block is not going to stay. But you gave value, but it was a bad value. It was a bad advice. You shouldn't have used it, right? You should have seen that the weight was not good. But when you receive good value, the weight is big. When you receive bad value, the weight is bad. But in any way, in any of those cases, you should test it. You should give value to it to see. Maybe you're used to this person, you know what's coming, right? So I don't even give value. I don't give water. Just toss it in the bin before I can even look at it. Now, at that age, we start not giving value to certain things. Like I was saying, we start having freedom to choose. So we can choose to throw away things in our dumpster, right? And in that case, we may choose to, rightly, choose to throw away styrofoam. We might, unfortunately, throw away some floral foam, and maybe we will start digging our foundation and throw some rocks away too. That's harder because your house is sitting on it. You need Jesus for the foundations. By the way, there are floral foams that look like the other one, but are dry floral foams. So this is just a wolf in sheep's skin, right? You think, oh, it's going to absorb and it's going to grow. Nothing. Why? Because it's a fake one. It's a bad example. It's a bad advice. This guy's as a floral foam, right? Now, don't take it for. Now they grow and they become teenagers, or I become teenager. At home, we have 1, 2, 3 of them. 3 teenagers. Queen, that's so bus. Skibbity toilet. Right? If you heard those, you have a teenager somewhere around you, or a preteen. Right? They start giving more weight to other people. It might be good, or it might be bad, but they start listening to other people too, right? At this age, boys if they are girls, or girls if they are boys, right? Or the other way. They start listening to other people, right? And maybe not taking parents' advice sometimes. So that depends, right? That depends. But the teenage years are very, very important. They get less rocks, right? We don't tell them how to tie their shoes, don't touch fire, right? But we give them a little bit, but mostly it's going to be this kind, right? I think you should do this, we'll pray for you, something like that. Or as an example, as parents, we hope we are kind of floral foams for them to use in their construction. Hopefully they use it, maybe they toss it, we don't know, right? But the consequences for teenagers then start becoming bigger, right? With self-harm, suicide, and so forth. Don't take it for young adults, independence. Now I move into my house, right? I got it all. There are still some rooms under construction. Hopefully they were not built with styrofoam. And perhaps at this stage in adulthood, the cycle closes and they become parents. At that point, maybe they are going to look into the field and look at some styrofoam that they rejected years ago, and let's put some water and use it for the rest of our house. Maybe. In different ages, how do we honor God, right? We went from baby to adult, and honor looks so different in the different cases. Don't take it for... What about the kind of parent? And this is where it gets really, really tricky. Right? Did one of them or both of them die? Did they die when you were young? Maybe you never met them. Or maybe you were abandoned. Maybe you live with stepdad or stepmom, or maybe foster care, maybe orphanage. And that's where the word capacity comes to mind. God has given you a person and two people that he used to bring you to the world, whether you like it or not. God placed them in the capacity of parents. However, there's other parent figures, right, that may come into your life. When parents fail or parents die, there's other people that come in. And this commandment, honor your parents, will also apply to stepdad or stepmom or foster. I don't know if you call foster dad, foster mom. Maybe one of these things is a huge rock in your life. Maybe abandonment or death, or maybe violence. You've been carrying it for years, right, as a huge rock. And maybe you can use it as a foundation rock for your house rather than carrying it. Easy for me to say, but is it possible to ask God to do that in your life? Were your parents immature? Like they fooled around all the time instead of doing what they should have been doing? Were they immoral, right? Were there all kinds of people and all kinds of crap going on in the house? Sorry. Were they violent? Was there favoritism? Were they absent from your life? Were they addicted and placed all their value in that substance? Were they sexually abusive? Disclosure. It's important for you to protect yourself. As a kid, as an adult, when there's violence, when there's abuse, you need to bring it up. But here we're talking about honor. And honor looks different from different people, from different ages. How to honor? Maybe something that can help is to understand your parents' background. Maybe if they are abusive, maybe their parents were abusive, or their grandparents, or uncle, or something. That's not excuse for the abuse, right? That is not excuse. But maybe it can help you kind of understand a little bit of why. 1 Peter 3:9. This is going to touch the subject I was talking before is all I want is payback, all I want is distance. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. In Romans 12:21, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. In Matthew 5:4, the words of Jesus, but I tell you, love your enemies. And in some cases, parents may be the enemies. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. You have the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a one-sided thing. You do not need a permission from anybody to forgive. But reconciliation is a two-sided thing, right? You need the other person to reconcile. You, however, have the power to forgive, to love, and to pray. Were your parents caring and lovely and godly? Then how can I honor them? How can I live a life that honors their example? Can I live a life that shows the good characters that they had, right? And learn from that and express them in my own life. Where are you today, this morning? Are you in a location where I hate my parents, I don't want to see them ever again? Are you in a location where, wow, my parents are the greatest in the world, I love them? Or someone in between? As kids, we receive granite, right? This is what it is, right? We receive granite for our foundations. As we grow up, we start receiving styrofoam or floral foam, right? And we have to act with our value on that styrofoam or that floral foam, right? In order for that floral foam to be a good building block for my house, I need to give it value. I need to pay attention to it, right? So there's a call to action. On the granite, there's no call to action. It is what it is, right? So that is where the phrase comes. Don't take floral foam or styrofoam. Don't take them for granted. Amen? Don't take them for granted. How can you act on this? All of you should have a piece of paper. And what my challenge is for you today is to go back in your memory. Maybe your parents passed away, so something in your memory. Or maybe it's from a parent figure in your life. Go back to something that you heard or an example that they gave you, and you never put it in practice. But it's a good thing. Write it down, please. Write down your floral foam from the past. Write it down and put it somewhere in the house with that rock on top. And remember the word honor. Jesus wants to be the rock on which I stand. The foundational forces of my life. It's a call, right? Whether our foundation is broken or it's pretty good, humanly speaking, we need Jesus. We need the foundation of Jesus. And that is the call. Do you have that foundation? Is Jesus the foundation of your life? Or is it the things that you experienced, the things that you lived? My challenge is, if you want to Have Jesus as your foundation. Accept him in your heart and accept that promise of him. He will be your rock. There will be a team right here on my left, your right, a prayer team. They can pray with you. If you want to make Jesus the rock of your life, or maybe some other issue related to parents or not, there will be people here that can pray for you and with you today. One last thing, as parents, I talked about us as kids honoring parents. Now, us as parents, we need to thrive for the trust and the honor of our kids. Proverbs 21:21 says, whoever pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. Honor, not honor. So thank you for your attention today. I know it's a hard one. And I pray that this may in some way give you strength and maybe some kind of a challenge to give honor to your father, your mother, to your father figure or mother figure. Maybe a memory of them, maybe with us today. Maybe may this help you in some way to give value, to give weight to who they are, and maybe to their example and their words in some way. Thank you for your time.